Hello and welcome to my studio. My name is Svetlana and today I decided to paint a landscape. So this landscape is from photograph, and this is photograph I took yesterday on my walk in the park, and also I did some sketches earlier in this month. So I'm pretty familiar with values and colors, so I'll see how it will go. So as you can see now, I have a blank canvas, and this time I will try to show how I do my whole underpainting and start from the scratch. So I have my oil primed panel, 9 by 12 inches. It's primed with oil ground by Gamblin, and I also have my palette here. I will just go quickly through it. I have white, titanium white, cad yellow light, cad yellow deep, cadmium orange, cad red light, yellow ochre, terra rosa. I have some leftover cool reds, alizarin and magenta, ultramarine blue. Then I have burnt sienna and transparent brown marks. I have black. I have cobalt green. So I'll start from my drawing. So I'll use a little bit of burnt sienna and ultramarine, so it kind of gives me a dark color. So I'll do a little sketch first and see what is going to be located where, and then I see if I'm going to keep it that way or do I'm going to change it a little. Kind of do this frame for myself. That's pretty common with paintings, and I'll post photograph together with the video after. So this is my horizon line, and I had a little bit of trees there. Bigger trees here. There are two bigger trees here. One tree here. So this is a bank of the river. There were more trees there, but they're smaller ones, so don't really. These are my main trees because there are some reflections falling into the river, so I have to correct my bank of the river a little. I want to give enough space for reflections, so I kind of do it a little bit lower here. So I'm using Gamsol, and the reason why I like these oil primed boards, as you can see, they're very smooth and they're very easy to correct. Like if you want to correct your painting or drawing, you can wipe the whole areas completely. Okay, so I think that will work for my painting as a drawing. So I used a small bristle brush, so because it's hard and good to use for drawing, but I don't paint with that brush. So now I'm going to do my underpainting. So for underpainting, I will start from sky. So actually I'm going to use a little bit of warmer color. I learned it one from the artist that use a warmer underpainting on the sky works really good. So it's a little bit too warm, oh sorry, too dark. So remember that sky is not going to be this color. I'm going to paint blue over it. This is only for purpose of underpainting, because sky has, especially it was evening painting picture, the sun was going down, so I only use it for underpainting. That, as you can see, I'm going to wipe it after that. So that's what I'm going to do. Just going to wipe it. It's kind of base of my sky. It's going to be painted, of course, different colors. Okay, so now I'm going to use some blue and brown and white, touch of yellow ochre, so kind of create a warmish dull gray color, because that's how this is my neutral color for the forest or trees at the back of the painting, the one that very far. So I'm not, this is just underpainting, so I'm kind of doing this. Again, I'm using bristle brush. It's kind of moving very well on my canvas. And I'm only using it for underpainting. Later I will do a better coverage with a different brush. And this is just to understand where I'm standing with my, this is a base color for this grass that goes by the water. And I go very, very thin. And again, this grass is further away, not as bright as the one that's close to us. So my front plane in the very front is very dark, because at that time it was in the shadow, in the shade, sorry. So I start very dark here, because I think that's my darkest dark, that, and there is the edge of the river that I'm going to paint later. But then the sun was, the way the sun was falling, it was warm in some areas, so I'm adding some yellow ochre to that. Again, I'm applying it quite thin. And now in front I'm adding cad yellow deep and some orange, actually, because it was quite intense. I remember that bright colors, so it will work well as a base tone, and then I will start adding lights in it and it will even pop up more. Now I need to put the same kind of underpainting color for my river, so I'm going to use this light color because even the reflections were very, very warm. Again, I will put it on and wipe it. This is just like a kind of more even priming than underpainting. It's more like a priming canvas with the colors that I need. I don't know how long I'll be able to do this on recording, because it's a little different than short still life. This is something that may require more time, so I may show just some of this process. At least it gives idea. Yeah. So I think my underpainting prepared in terms of where what is going to be. Of course, these are not correct values or anything yet. It's just priming, more like priming the canvas. So I'll start from the sky. So I'm taking a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of alizarin, and a touch. So I had a really old dry color. It's called Phthalo turquoise. Touch of that as well. So this is the coolest part of the sky. Actually, I need it to make it much lighter. So this is a. So you see that warmth coming from the. I actually learned this not very long ago, and I'm trying this and I liking it. I tried it on my gouache paintings outside, priming the sky with warm colors. Actually, I primed the whole canvas with warm, and it worked quite well. So now I'm just adding to that color a touch of more red, make it a little warmer. I add a touch of orange actually, so making it a little warmer, and I think it's a little lighter in that area. So that's my sky further down. I hope this video will not be too dark. If it's too dark, I'll probably not post it, because I decided to paint the second part of the day. Maybe it wasn't a good idea, but I'll just see. So now I'm going to my lowest part of the sky. And that lowest part of the sky has even more warmth in it, more light. And as you can see that the low underpainting works quite well. So I'm painting thinly still, because I'm not sure what corrections I may do later. Then I'm going to, hopefully my microphone stays with me. I'm just going to quickly get one extra brush just to smooth my sky a little. Yeah, I got it. So kind of blend with a dry brush, do some blending in the sky. Okay, so my sky is done. No, really it's not. There are some clouds there, and they're really, really light white clouds. So I'm just putting suggestion of those clouds. Try this color a little here. Don't want to make these clouds too dark. So that cloud is a really, really interesting cloud, because it goes like this. It's just kind of little transition of air, not much, and a little bit of that cloud was a little bit pink, so I try Terra Rosa. I think I may want to put light by my easel, but I really like to keep it with daylight for now. See how long I can go and how quick I paint. That will define. So now I'm going to the furthest forest. So mixing some blue color and some ultramarine, and actually I'm adding a little brown because it's even though it's a further dullest gray, still it's a very kind of sunny evening. So there are some houses, some trees. Very far away. I don't see the details of those. Like these trees are a little bit bigger. It's a very dull, kind of not quite orange, brownish color. So put those trees for now like this, just indication. The same I do here. I'm getting more yellow ochre and go through these trees. But again, because they're further away, they should be dull, even though I see them bright on my photograph. I see them bright on the painting, but to tell the truth, they're not as bright as the ones in front if you compare, so I'll keep them as they are for now. So I'm going to do my shadows now at the background. Again, they're not very strong shadows, but these are the ones that go under trees. So this one goes a little bit further here in the field. I would say, even blend this shadow in my previous underpainting. Like in some places they're bigger, and some places they're smaller. So that's the shadows at the furthest plane, and now I have to do my second plane. This is much lighter in comparison with the one that I painted before, because it's closer and there is more sun falling on it. But at the same time I should remember that it's not just sun, it's sky as well. So I'll still keep it thin and not very bright. Some of it is really light here, but I have to be careful not to make it too light. So okay, so this bank of the river, that's pretty intense bright color, and it's really something that impressed me when I was going. These grasses here, they were really bright, so I probably will keep this color quite high value and intense. So I use cad yellow deep for this one. Still has a lot of yellow ochre, and actually I'm adding some red as well, just to intensify it a little, not too much though. You can see how red changes it. deep, some orange, some white, some orange. Still working with the same colors, just trying to see where my brightest colors here. And there are a little bit of shadows where the river and the bank, the reflections, not reflections, sorry, the shadows from the grass. It's where the river goes. They're not all exactly the same, so kind of there are some very dark, some not as dark. So the same shadows here at the back were even more intense, so I'm trying to mute them a little. There was some where there was snow, there were some blue shadows from that snow that stayed. We had some snow, but it melted mostly. But because it's further away, I'm not going to do that snow. So now I will have some tree trunks here, and I'm going to do just indication of those tree trunks at the background. Sorry, not at the background. Yeah, they're kind of plain, that plain, so I could match reflections, and then I'll go in more detail later on those trees. But for now I just need to kind of figure out which ones are going to be where. Actually, very interesting tree here. Maybe I'll put later. So, and then the lighter version of that will be in the water later. But for now, I need to do some reflections here first. So again, very thinly at this point I'm doing it. So there is some orange, some yellow colors in reflections closer to the bank. Especially closer here, but they're not as light as the grass, because reflections are normally for light objects are darker, so I'm using darker reflections in the water. So my grass is not very dark, but still it's quite light, but that's why it's a little darker. And then my reflections for the, so there is those trees as well here. So I'm kind of making it very, very soft and very muted. So I need more light here. So I'm trying to put light now, of course. Not sure how it will work in terms of lighting for video, but we'll see. Artificial light is not my favorite, so I'm doing reflections here as well, of the sky mostly, so sky will be a little darker and more muted. Shouldn't go horizontal yet, but it's tempting. When you see water, you just really want to do it. So here I had more kind of brown orange reflection, and some trees. That's very bright, just because I have a light. No, I shouldn't go very bright. So now I'm going to bring up value of the water here a little bit. But the water closest to us is actually very dark in the photograph and in the river itself, so it's more intense. So, and it's not completely still water, it's kind of moving river. Continue working on the river. Really want to add some bright colors here, just to freshen it up a little. It's not still not purely blue, it's more like a muted blue. I'm not really blending, but I'm touching the ones that the edge and kind of make it softer together. Of course, I'll be working on that one a little more as well. So now I'm going to put those tree trunks I was talking about. Just indicate reflections, and not very sharp. And then I'll add a little bit more orange into reflections there. Actually, I have another tree here. Some trees here. There are the leaves, because they're golden in the sun, they give this brownish orange reflections in the water. So I think this brush can rest for now. I'm going to my next brush. I may even work with this soft brush for the sky. So I'll go back to the sky and try to see if I can do this cloud now while it's white, oh sorry, while it's wet. And add a tiny touch of pink that I see. Yeah. Because it was kind of not sunset, but close. So sky started having already a little bit of pink in it, just hardly noticeable. there were some clouds, but they were very, very thin clouds, so I don't want to put too much in there. Just indications, some darker clouds as well. Even this one's too dark. Yeah, they were very, very light clouds. And here is another tree. Was here. Okay, so if you can see, I'm painting very, very soft at this point. I'm very muted. So my painting looks like it's a very moody painting. But I'll reach my color. I kind of put, this is only the base, really. So I'm going to build the color, the value, and all other parts of my painting based on this underpainting. So again, I'll start. So I think my sky can be left as it is for now. I may come back to it when I do other parts, but at this point, just add a little bit more pink here. At this point, I'll leave it. And then I will see the other thing in daylight. I may see lots of extra things I didn't see. But at this point, I'm going to do my trees. So I'll go through the background now. Do my trees. I may add more sky in the trees later, but right now I'm only doing this and see how much detail I need to add to those trees, if I need to add any detail at all, because those trees are still quite away and I don't want to put too much detail on those trees. Just indication is enough. So they had that golden color in most of them, but and this soft brush works well for indicating some of those further branches. I'm using the same really mixture, just different intensity and values for these trees, the same orange mixture. Now I will see if I can. For tree trunks, I'm using mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna. I have. Sometimes I use transparent red oxide, sometimes I use burnt sienna, so it depends on what paint I was using. Maybe I was doing something before, like I was doing pet portraits, I used burnt sienna, but okay, that's a little bit too black. And some tree trunks are very light because they're lit by the sun, but still they're not very light. So I added some yellow ochre to some of them, just to show the ones that closer to us. And some of them lit up so bright that it feels like they're much higher value than even sky, but they're not. Actually, I was doing some comparison yesterday when I was working, and I took a white tissue and compared the mostly lit tree trunks to the sky and to the tissue, and I realized that tree trunks, even the ones that mostly lit, they're not as bright as it seems. They're still much darker. So there is this very light patch of grass over there. Trying to put it in between trees as well. You can see I'm doing the furthest trees details now. You can call it details, but they're not really details. They're more kind of additional information. Don't want the trunk there. Okay, so I actually have iPad in front of me with photographs that I'm referencing from yesterday. So there are 2 big trees here, 3. So one tree had very dark branches, so, but again, because it's far away, I'm not going to go through like every single branch or every single tree, and some tree trunks you see, some tree trunks you don't see. Some are really lit up and some are not. It just depends how much detail you want to add. So this seems to be brightest parts of my trees, and I remember they were very bright, but they're not as bright, I guess, as front plain grass. That's why I'm trying to do them very soft and very muted. So there is another tree here. I can only see kind of branches, don't see too much of it. Just want to see what will happen if I add a little bit more orange in those furthest parts. If I do blue and orange, because there are some really interesting trees there that show a lot of light. So I think I'm going to use different brush again. So at this point I need to add some more white. My white finished. White is the first color that always finishes first. So I'll continue working on the grass now. Again, I'm taking this soft brush. because it lays paint on top quite well. So I like this brush. Even though I see lots of orange in that, actually. Then I will just add a touch of that orange in reflections here, not quite intense, because there is already color there, so once you mix it, it's not as bad. And I couldn't resist to touch the water, of course, after that. Trying to do some cooler reds that I see at the background in the field, some kind of red brown color. Yeah, those cooler reds actually help to push it further, the background part. And then this top plane, it has sun and it has sky in it, so it's very interesting. I'll try to add a little bit of coolness. So some of these grasses have dark parts in it. They're not very light. So I try to vary my brush strokes and also try to see where the shadows, where the cooler, where the warm spots, because they have both. Like predominantly it seems to be very warm, but it has some cool accents in it as well. So now I'm going to again go just a little bit here. Actually I'll go like this, just very soft, where I see the biggest shadows that go into the grass. And I see more brown in there than blue. Sure what it is. Okay. You noticed when I paint landscape I don't talk as much. Plus I'm painting almost in the dark and I put light, so that's for me not the best light. So I'm trying to focus on what I'm doing. So I think I'll do water next. Finish water. I did some of it, so just now I can go with some soft touches like this on the water. Not any ripples yet, because that was quite a still water. I'm trying to see how still it is actually. has some just tiny ripples on it, so I have to be, some of them are light, some of them are dark, so I don't want to overdo it. And some of them are very dark, some of them are brown actually. The main thing to keep it in balance and not do too much of it, because then you lose this water. So this brush works perfectly for smudging the big areas like this. So it's very soft, very nice. It would be nice for my front grass as well. So actually this is a rosemary brush, and it's a filbert long, filbert series 278. So I don't use that brush often in landscape. Sometimes I use it when I do like flowers or some underpaintings, but it's very good to paint on top of things, or when you need like really soft touches. It works perfect. So there is some light I see here, because I don't want to interfere with that water too much, but I see light areas here. So I may leave water like this for now. See some lighter areas, so wherever I see something like light or little streaks of white in water, I'm including it, because it kind of gives more natural look. So I'll leave water for now. Of course I will be coming back to all parts of my painting again and again, but for now I will stick with what I have. So the front grasses are very interesting color. They're dark, but they have some red in it and dark brown, so I use actually my transparent Mars brown, add more of that, and alizarin and blue. So that kind of the very front edge of my grass. So I will do that. That would be a very good contrast. And I'm mixing it with my previously painted underpainting as well. So then it goes a tiny bit lighter in some areas. So still using that, and then it's like goes kind of gradation, because the way the sun was falling. So I had gradations of light and dark, and some of them were orange, some yellow. It was quite interesting colors. So there were some black, not black, dark patches. So again I'll use that brown and purple and blue. Okay. So I may start adding some details to the front grass, not to all of it, but some of them. So I'm using some orange and some alizarin and white, and I got a very bright color. So I'm going to mute it a little. I actually wanted that yesterday when I was watching that color, I could see like how bright it was, and I really liked it. But now I mix this color and I'm thinking, no, that's not the color of nature, but it had some really beautiful, almost like pink grasses in it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see where I see them. That will be very, very front. Again, I'm going to kind of not to add too much. So I'm using the edge of my brush. Trying to do different vertical strokes to imitate grass. Then I'm going to mix some yellow ochre and white and some cad yellow dip that also finished. So just some grasses were pink, some grasses were not pink, they were yellow and all other colors. So I'm going to find my cad yellow dip. One of my favorite colors, actually, called yellow dip for landscape painting. Really like it. Some combination with white, yellow ochre can give you very bright colors. So just try to do different grasses here, but in the sun. That was a lot of grass. Yeah. Can use this brush actually for the most brightest spots. Yesterday I've seen those and I'm thinking that would be beautiful to paint. Really, really nice. And here I don't worry about like getting very thick paint, because that's the front plane and we don't mind bringing attention to this spot. So further away there are like patches of grasses. I don't really want to paint individual grasses, so I will kind of start massing the one that there where I see light. So now I'm looking at these grasses and they're so pink that I'm thinking they almost look unnatural, but that's nature. Sometimes there are surprises, or sometimes you can express something that you like more than you think. You can exaggerate things. So I'm kind of muting my orange now in these areas further, and I don't do individual grasses either. So what I'm doing is soft touches on the water, because there is some grass here, the same as like trees where the leaves, there are some soft touches. So the same here, you see some kind of grasses, bushes and things like this. So I'm doing those with soft touches, not everywhere, but where I see the biggest ones. Kind of doing it with the same paint I had before. I may mute some of that grass later. What I'm going to do, I'm going to look at that painting tomorrow morning in the daylight and see which parts I need to refine, what I need to improve. What I was going to do now is use another soft brush, and while it's wet, go through the lightest lights in the grass, lightest lights in the grass opposite. So I'm using again combination of cad yellow light or cad yellow deep, a little bit of orange, a little bit cad orange, a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of white. So what I want to do, I want to go through this bench by the river and bring it up a little. By this I mean kind of, first of all I want to, because there's so much light falling on these grasses, so I want to emphasize some of these grasses more. Not all of them will be vertical, because this is still not the closest. Some of them are opposite bank of the river, but because they're so bright, you can see them so well. I really want to work on some of them. It's a very beautiful color. So too much white, I think. You can see this brush is so soft. It allows me very good application. That's why when I discovered soft brushes for still life, I decided to use them in landscape as well. So again, using a lot of cadmium yellow deep added to that. And I'm going to refine with the same brush this edge again, because I think this edge kind of adds character to this river. Then I'm going to use a little bit of more blue purple here. Just glaze very carefully on top. It kind of brings back further in space those areas and those trees, and kind of do this. Should be a little light as well. At this point, I'm thinking I may finish for today and look at it tomorrow with fresh eye. I wanted to bring these trees more. Normally, it's not a good idea to do it when it's already done, but I wanted to bring these trees more so you can see more dark. And so I think because my touches were so soft here, so really it's very easy to modify, and that's why soft touches in underpainting are important. You can still do a lot with them. And the other thing, using the right materials, like in this case, no way I would do it with the bristle brush, because it's too harsh and it would pick up all the paint and smudge the whole painting. But with softer brushes I can just glaze on the surface, and it's very easy to do without picking the paint. So there's some muted orange stuff here going on. Still, I think it's good enough. Yeah, when you do soft touches in landscape paintings, sometimes it really helps to create that nice natural soft look because especially like muted paintings like these, like bushes and trees, when you look in nature, they're very soft, especially when you look from far away. So you try not to put hard, I'm trying not to put hard edges. I used to make lots of hard edges, and actually I didn't understand much about edges. I guess it's come with practice, and when you start reading more, understanding more from other painters, read the books, like a really good book about edges from Richard Schmidt. I don't know if you're familiar. Obviously, if you're a good painter, you should read it, because he doesn't say anything new. It's all was already said in the past, but he goes from his experience, and he did quite a good job of generalizing all these important things like edges, values, and other things, color charts, lots of other. So I have both of his books. Sometimes I read them from beginning and find new things. I have lots of bookmarks there, and sometimes some things I couldn't understand originally, now I understand quite well. So this is a good book to keep, that you can keep reading. So I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to reduce this bright grass even more. So I'm going to go with a soft brush and just kind of drag through and cover everything that I think I overdid with this dark shadows, especially in here. This brush works so well for it. Yeah, because I think I was talking and didn't pay attention to what I'm doing that much, because normally I don't talk when I don't even listen to music when I paint. I got carried away this time. I'm picking some of this, it's okay. So that kind of gives more dimension to this grass. I'm going to wash this brush and see where I just the one that I lost, but they should be there. I'm going to have a look. Really tempted to add more color to these trees, really, and I think I will do some, just at least front ones where the sun falls. I know it might be a little bit too much exaggerated, but try not to do too much, just only in some of them. And I think I'm going to put some sky as well back. The sky that I lost in some of those trees, or I never had it. So I'm going to use again white, touch of orange, touch of blue, but it's going to be a little darker. So sky holes always darker. That's what the rule is. Otherwise, started not there where I need, but sky holes should be darker. Otherwise, they will be shining through the trees, and we don't want that. Sky itself, I'm going to do take my another soft brush and just paint some of the sky that I lost. paint around it. And then these two big trees, I lost some sky as well. I may work on some details of trees, not too much, but just enough to add some indication of more branches and trees, just tiny little indications. Maybe I'm not going to do that, actually. Maybe I'll wait until tomorrow when I have better light, because right now I'm starting losing the sense of what I'm doing because it's so dark. Plus my palette started getting very dark as well. Don't see what I'm mixing. I know that I need to bring some trunks and some branches back, but I'm not sure yet which ones and how much. So this light doesn't let me do that. But I think tomorrow I may have a better light for that. Because I see that some darker accents wouldn't work well. Some of it is really grey, not that orange. Some of it later, other way around. When trees approach sky, the tops get much lighter. So these patches of light grass, I'll just do this horizontal strokes indicating grass, especially top of this that I lost. Keep losing things. Okay, so I'll leave this landscape until tomorrow. It will be still wet, and I'm going to get back to it. So I can see I went over hour. That was my plan. Hopefully something is seen here. And I'm not going to, I think you see my iPad. That's the photograph I was using. I'll just carefully bring it to the camera because of the light. It's not really good, but I think you see that. And I apologize for darkness. We have short days now in November. I wish I could show my palette, but if I move camera it might not be a good idea, but I'll just try to show it quickly what my final palette is. That's how it looks. It's messy, but it has all the colors I used. So you can see it kind of goes into a yellow, brown, blue, more than green, because it's autumn painting, you can tell. So I hope you enjoyed watching it and can use it, some of my tips and things from me in your paintings. Or if you enjoyed it, you can make comment or send me a message. Thank you for watching. Bye.